we're in Unit 10, Grammar 1, the imperfect tense. Okay, we know about the past tense. We've talked about the preterite. The preterite is a past tense that provides specific information as to when something took place. The most common translation or formation in English is the ed, past tense. The imperfect is another form of the past tense in Spanish. It is used more for ongoing actions or general descriptions, storytelling, things that used to happen that you could translate as would or ing. So I built a house, preterite. I am building a house, continuing. Okay, here are your reasons when to use the imperfect. To describe ongoing physical and or mental states in the past, what things were like and how people felt. This kind of gives you a feeling of storytelling or background information. Éramos pobres. We were poor. No teníamos mucho dinero. Y yo tenía hambre. I didn't have a lot of money and I was hungry. To describe habitual actions in the past. Habitual actions meaning what used to happen regularly. There'll definitely be some trigger words in here to help you. Mi amigo llamaba a su madre cada día. My friend used to call his mother every day, or my friend would call his mother every day. Cada día is the trigger of a habitual action. To describe two simultaneous actions happening, and we see ing, that's present progressive, in the past. So two things happening side by side at the same time. There'll also be trigger support there too. Estudiábamos mientras Juan estaba viendo la tele. Would study, or we were studying. We have the would or the ing. While, mientras means while, so that's showing us that we have two actions happening side by side. While Juan was watching the television. To describe an action that was in progress when something else happened. Now the action in progress will be in the imperfect. The interrupting action will be in the preterite, and we'll study more about this one in our next unit. Carlos cenaba con sus padres cuando tú llamaste. Okay, so we have Carlos was eating dinner with his parents when, there's the interruption, when you called, preterite. Tell time in the past, when you're expressing the time in the past, you'll always use the imperfect. Or if you're stating someone's age in the past, you use the imperfect. Eran las 7 de la noche. It was 7 o'clock. La niña tenía 5 años. The girl was 5 years old. Okay, here's some trigger words for the imperfect. These have to do with frequency or over time. A menudo, often. A veces, sometimes. Antes, before. Cada meaning every day, every month, every year. Mientras, while. Cuando, when it's then followed by a description of age or something that you would habitually do in the past. De vez en cuando, occasionally. De niño, de niña, as a child. So you're talking about the past as a child, and that always triggers the imperfect. Todos los días, every day, every month, every year. Desde, desde hacía, en hacía que. These are expressions of time that indicate since, and I'll show you what those look like. Usualmente, frecuentemente, generalmente, constantemente, normalmente. Anytime you see mente, that's an ly in English. These are adverbs. They are how, where, when, or to what extent something happened. Por lo común or por lo general, both mean in general or generally. Rara vez, rarely. Raras veces, seldom. Siempre, always. So when we see this, or veces, or anything to do with how often something happened. Give me a specific number, and I will use the imperfect. Here's the ones desde that have to do with time expression. Desde means since, you add a time. Mi tío estaba enfermo desde 2020. I've been sick since 2020. Since. Desde hacía, or plus a time expression. Andrés trabajaba allí desde hacía 3 meses. Andrés had been working there for 3 months. Hacía plus time plus que plus a verb. We're talking about activities and states that had started previously and were still going on at a particular point in the past. Hacía mucho tiempo que salían juntos. They had been going out together for a long time. Hacía 2 años que vivíamos en La Paz. They had been living in La Paz for 2 years. So when you see hacía or desde with time expressions, you will trigger the imperfect. Okay, the conjugation of the imperfect is really quite simple. It's going to sound like a bouncing ball because the imperfect is an ongoing action. So this is a good connection. AR verbs, you'll drop your AR and you'll add aba, abas, aba, habamos with an accent mark, aba. So nosotros, who's normally a rule follower, is going to be a rebel. So he has so many syllables, we need to add an accent. But none other of the tenses have accent marks. Notice that first person and third person are the same. Hablaba, hablaba. So in that case, when you use first and third, you might want to add your yo in front of first just to clarify if it's not clear. ER verbs take off your ER and then you'll say ia, ias, ia, íamos, ian. Accent on all of them. First and third are still the same. Vivir, take off your IR and you'll add ia, ias, ia, íamos, ian. So ERs and IRs are identical. They will have on all forms. AR verbs, we only have the accent mark and the nosotros. Here are 3 irregulars that you'll need to work on. Ir, which means to go, will be iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, iban. No accent marks except on the nosotros form. Ser, which means to be, and that's when we're talking about physical description, personality, relationships, if you remember those reasons. Era, eras, era, éramos, eran. No accents except on éramos and nosotros form. Ver, veí, veías, veía, veíamos, veían. All have accent marks. So ver is only considered irregular because if I were to take off the ER, I would not be left with any vowels. So I'm going to keep that E on. A great way to think about the imperfect tense is how things were or used to be. I could say I worked, but then I'd have a little difficulty distinguishing between using the preterite and the imperfect. If I could translate it as I was working or I used to work, and it feels right, it sounds right, it makes sense, the sentence still is what I intended, then use the imperfect. You can translate it as was working, something with ing, and used to, use imperfect. All right, so jugar is a stem change in the present tense, but there's no stem change in the imperfect, so you don't have to worry about that. It's an AR verb, so I take off my AR, I type out J-U-G, and then I add my endings. Jugaba, jugabas, jugaba. See how it kind of sounds like a bouncing ball, a repetitive action? Jugábamos has an accent, jugaban. Let's translate this. This could mean I played, right? But if I translate it as I was playing or used to play and it makes sense in my sentence, I know that I'm using the imperfect tense. You were playing, you used to play. She or he was playing, she or he used to play. And of course, those stay at the U form, we would use that too. We were playing, we used to play. They were playing, they used to play. Hacer, to do or to make. Hacía, hacías, hacía, hacíamos, hacía. Is an ER verb, so take off your ER and add ia, ias, ia, íamos, ia. Let's compare a few sentences here. We have jugar. Jugábamos fútbol allí todos los días después de la escuela. Jugábamos could be translated as we played, right? But if we stick with our we used to or would, then we know for sure we can use imperfect. We would play or we used to play soccer there every day after school. Todos los días is a trigger. It's not a definite time, it's a habitual thing. Hacer. Ella siempre hacía la tarea los lunes. She would always do homework on Mondays. Or she used to do homework on Mondays. Siempre is a trigger. That means a habitual action, not a specific time. Right, almorzar means to have lunch. This one is a stem changer in the present, but again, we do not do stem change in the imperfect. Almorzaba. I was eating, I used to eat lunch. Almorzabas. Almorzaba. Remember, first and third are conjugated the same, so you might want to keep the yo for clarification or emphasis when you conjugate this verb. Almorzábamos with an accent. Almorzaban. That's a stem changer. This is telling me that I'm going to need to use my pronouns for stem changers. And it's an IR verb, so I'm going to take off my IR and take off my se and start my conjugation. Me vestía. Nos vestíamos, se vestían. Would get dressed, or I used to get dressed. So here's one sentence that has two simultaneous actions in the past using these two verbs. Mientras yo almorzaba, él se vestía. Mientras means while. That is a trigger word. That's going to tell me that two things are happening side by side and nobody's interrupting. While I was eating lunch, he was getting dressed. While I ate lunch, he got dressed. Perder, that means to lose or to miss, to miss out on an event. Yo perdía, perdíamos, perdían. It's easy to conjugate. Ir is irregular. Iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, iban. Now we have, again, two habitual actions in the past. Yo nunca perdía un partido de fútbol. Siempre iba a los partidos. I would miss a soccer game. I would always go to the matches. So our triggers here are nunca and siempre. Never and always. Those are habitual words. They're not specific in time. You can't throw a target at them and know when they happen. It's just habitual. It would happen often. Eras, era, éramos, eran. Regular just as far as you want to keep the E on. Yo veía, veías, veía, veíamos, veía. Here's a sentence where we're talking about childhood and age in the past. Cuando era niña, veía muchas películas de Disney. When When I was a child. Oh, anything talking about being a child or in the past, reflecting towards age or childhood, adolescence, triggers the imperfect. When I was a child, I would watch a lot of Disney movies. So now here I have a little sentence. The verb is given up above. You need to conjugate that verb in the imperfect and put it in the blank. And then we need to decide why the imperfect was used here. Cuando yo, blank, niña, me acostaba temprano. Well, I see a trigger cuando and I see a trigger niña. Cuando yo era niña. Okay, so I'm talking about my childhood when I was a girl. Lie down earlier, go to bed. Subject is yo veía la tele todos los días a las 7 de la noche. Why am I using imperfect? Todos los días, every day, habitual action. One should have yo right in the front here. Many times I would get dressed up as a princess for Halloween. I miss the yo. Muchas veces me vestía. Muchas veces is the trigger. That's habitual action. Many times. It's not very specific. Yo blank 13 años. Ooh, age in the past. Cuando mis padres se divorciaron. Yo tenía. Okay. Here we have age in the past, and this is also an action that was interrupted by another. So here's cuando, and then here's the preterite. I was 13 when my parents got divorced. So as you were bouncing along at 13, interrupted, your parents got divorced. So the first one is imperfect, second one is preterite. That will come up a lot more in our next unit. Estar. Ella blank enferma desde 2021. Ya estaba enferma. Desde is my trigger, since. She was sick since. So desde means since. It's a physical, mental, or emotional state in the past. Can't pinpoint it exactly. It's since 2021. She has been sick. The verb is ir. Ella blank a la farmacia a menudo. A menudo meaning often. Ella iba. So she would go to the pharmacy often. Habitual action. A menudo, often. El amigo blank a su novia cada noche. The friend would call his girlfriend every night. Would call, llamaba. Why? Habitual action. Cada noche. Una de la tarde. This is telling time. Conjugate ser. Era. Era la una de la noche. We always use the imperfect conjugation when we are telling time in the past. Ellos blank muy tristes cuando no ganaron el partido. They were very sad. Why are we using the imperfect? It's ongoing physical, mental, or emotional state right there. Blank que yo era una niña muy buena. So what the sentence means is my mom would say that I was a very good girl. We're talking about being a child in the past. Decía, my habitual action, and talking about age in the past. Yo lavaba los platos mientras mi hermana blank la mesa. Mientras means while. That means I have two actions going on side by side. That's always imperfect actions. Here's your first one, it's imperfect. Yo lavaba. This one is quitaba. So I would wash the plates while my sister would clear the table. Las 9 de la noche. Ah, this is telling time again. Cuando llegaron a casa. Eran las 9 de la noche. It was 9 o'clock when they arrived at home. Time in the past, use imperfect. Blank cenando cuando ella nos interrumpió. Anytime you see ing on this verb, this one's going to be in the imperfect. Estábamos cenando. We were having dinner when she interrupted. So this was one action in progress interrupted by another. Blank, mucho calor afuera, pero yo tenía mucho frío. So it was very hot outside, but I was very cold. Hacía. That's an ongoing physical, mental, or emotional state. It's not specific. It was just hot outside. I don't know. Can't throw an arrow at it. Okay, to leer. Yo blank un libro mientras mi padre blank la tele. Mientras, that's a trigger for two ongoing actions. Yo leía un libro while my dad watched television. Oh, there's a trigger. Adolescentes, adolescents, and mucho. It's an expression of not specific amount of time. All of this triggers imperfect. Cuando Marta y Vilma eran adolescentes, hablaban mucho por teléfono. When Marta and Vilma were adolescents, they would talk a lot on the phone. Okay, just a review screen here. AR verbs, take off the AR and then replace with aba, amasaba, habamos accent. ERs and IRs will be conjugated the same. Remove the ER, remove the IR. Every conjugation will have an accent. Ia, ias, ia, iamos, ian. First and third are still the same, so you might want to keep the yo in if you need to clarify or end. Here are your irregulars down below. Ir, ser, and assignments are your grammar tutorial and the imperfect, your ALA, and then your homework. Lots of fill in the blanks here because that is the practice, conjugating the verbs. You still need to have your vocabulary in mind when you're doing this, so have that out because there's a lot of verbs in there. Those are the verbs that you'll be conjugating.